The great hall of the Interstellar Academy of Harmony shimmered with alien light. Hollow panels flickered, displaying names, species, and companion animals in a dozen languages. The showcase was meant to be ceremonial, a chance for cadets to present their harmless pets as symbols of peace. Rows of aliens stood proudly with creatures that glowed, chirped, or floated lazily in containment fields. A 10th cadet cradled a puffball that pulsed with bioluminescence. A Vrixie hummed soothingly to its jelly-like companion. Even the towering Brawl Warrior had brought a timid marsh beast that clung like moss. Then the door slid open. Cadet Marcus Hale walked in, shoulders squared, uniform crisp. At his heels padded 2 wolf-like cubs, thick-furred, golden-eyed, their paws too large for their bodies. The sound of claws against polished floor echoed louder than it should have. The hall froze. The cubs sniffed the air, tails flicking lazily, entirely at ease. Marcus placed a hand on one's neck, and it leaned into him, rumbling a soft growl that was anything but hostile. A wave of alarm swept the crowd. A Clyden shrieked, clutching its fragile pet closer. Another cadet dropped their glowing orb, which scuttled away in panic. The voice of Instructor Veyril cut through the chaos, sharp as glass. "Cadet Hale, explain yourself." Marcus stopped in the center of the room. His expression didn't waver. "You required each student to bring a companion animal. I brought mine." Veyril's tall, insectoid frame loomed, his antennae twitching in outrage. "Those are predators. Their kind exists to kill, not to bond. The rules stated Harmless." Marcus's lips curved, not quite a smile. "They are cubs. Harmless, if you understand them. And I do." A ripple of whispers swept the room. Harmless? The word was absurd when paired with teeth like those, eyes that gleamed like hunters. One of the cubs yawned, revealing a mouth full of sharp white teeth. A Xylenian cadet flinched. Veyril's voice sharpened further. "You insult this institution, human! Every other species here respects the sanctity of peace. And you bring wolves?" "They're not wolves," Marcus said evenly. He crouched, scratching behind the ears of the nearest cub, who leaned into his touch. "They're Fenrir hounds, genetically bonded to humans for centuries, stronger than wolves, smarter too, but loyal." "Loyal," Veyril spat the word as though it were poison. "They will turn on us the moment instinct stirs. You've endangered the academy already." Marcus finally looked up, his gaze steady. "With respect, instructor, that's your fear speaking, not theirs." The hall buzzed louder now, cadets debating, some nodding, others shaking their heads violently. Marcus could feel the weight of every eye on him. Veyril raised a clawed hand, demanding silence. "Cadet Hale, these creatures are unacceptable. I will not risk—" Before he could finish, one of the cubs padded forward, right up to a trembling alien holding a jelly creature. The cadet whimpered, bracing for attack. Instead, the cub sniffed, tilted its head, then licked the alien's hand. The jelly quivered, but remained intact. Gasps rang out. Marcus's voice was quiet, but it carried. "You see, they choose peace because I taught them peace. That's the difference between fear and trust." For a moment, even Veyril faltered. His antennae twitched uncertainly. Then his eyes narrowed, cold again. "This is not over, human. You will prove their harmlessness, or face expulsion. And I assure you, I will be watching." Marcus rose, resting his hand lightly on the cub's back. "I wouldn't expect anything less." The cub growled low, protective, not at the aliens, but at the instructor. And for the first time, a sliver of unease rippled through Veyril's rigid calm. The academy cafeteria was louder than usual. Trays clattered, alien tongues clicked, buzzed, and rasped. Yet every conversation circled back to the same subject. The humans' pets. "They have fangs longer than my fingers," hissed a Clyden cadet, antennae quivering. "How is that harmless?" "They're cubs," countered a Brawl Warrior, though even his deep voice wavered. Young ones are less dangerous. Less dangerous is still dangerous, snapped the Vrixie, its translucent skin flashing nervous orange. Marcus sat at the edge of the hall, calmly eating while the two cubs lounged beneath his bench, heads on their paws. They had quickly learned the rhythm of academy life. Ignore the stares, stay close, stay quiet. Every so often, one of them huffed softly, making the nearest table flinch. He pretended not to notice. When the cubs first arrived, he had expected fear. Humanity's reputation was already shaky. But the intensity of it surprised even him. Cadets whispered as if he'd brought venomous blades disguised as pets. The voices grew sharper. They shouldn't be here. Someone will get hurt. Humans don't follow rules, they bend them. Marcus set down his tray deliberately. You know, he said, speaking loud enough for the nearest tables. I can hear every word. A silence spread, rippling outward. Some cadets flushed or shifted away. Others glared openly, daring him to continue. The Brawl Warrior tilted his head. And? Do you deny it? Marcus's eyes dropped to the cubs. Both were awake now, ears pricked. I deny that they are a threat to anyone who isn't foolish. They know friend from foe. Better than most of you think. Before another cadet could reply, a metallic chime rang across the hall. Cadet hail! The voice of Instructor Veyril crackled over the comm. Report to Training Hall 3, immediately. A few cadets muttered, some in pity, others in grim anticipae. The assistants brought forward a cage. Inside squirmed a small training drone, shaped like a rodent with glowing eyes, designed to provoke predator instincts. Marcus's stomach tightened. He saw the trap immediately. You want them to attack? He said flatly. I want to reveal their true nature, Veyril corrected smoothly. Release them into the containment field. The cubs growled low, sensing tension. Marcus knelt, resting a hand on each furry head. Their golden eyes met his, steady. You trust me? He murmured. The cubs' tails thumped once against the floor. He looked up at Veyril. Fine, but you'll regret assuming instinct is all that defines them. The containment field shimmered. Marcus led the cubs inside. The rodent drone was released at the opposite end, skittering, emitting ultrasonic squeals engineered to trigger chase behavior. Every alien in the observation gallery leaned forward. The cubs froze, muscles tensed, ears perked. For one breathless moment, Marcus feared they would lunge. It would be over. Expulsion, disgrace, humanity humiliated. Instead, he crouched low, whistled once, sharp. Stay! The cubs glanced back at him. Then, astonishingly, they sat. Their eyes tracked the drone, but their paws stayed rooted. One gave a low whine of frustration, but didn't move. The gallery erupted with disbelief. Veyril's antennae twitched violently. This proves nothing. They are still predators, leased only by your constant presence. Remove yourself, and they... The rodent drone scuttled too close, bumping one cub's paw. The cub leaned down, teeth flashing. A gasp swept the hall. But instead of biting, the cub scooped the drone between its jaws, careful not to crush it, then padded over to Marcus and dropped it at his feet. Tail wagging, like a proud retriever with a toy. Marcus's lips twitched upward. He knelt, ruffling the cub's fur. Good girl, Eleanor. The gallery exploded with noise, shouts, disbelief, even laughter from some cadets who hadn't expected humor in the scene. Veyril's mandibles clacked furiously. You mock this test! I proved your point wrong, Marcus replied evenly. You wanted aggression. You got obedience. That's humanity's history. You see predators, we see partners. His voice rose slightly, carrying to the watching cadets. On Earth, we didn't just fear wolves. We walked beside them until they became dogs. We didn't just fight horses. We saddled them, rode them. Every predator we could tame, we did. Not because they were harmless, but because we learned respect. The cubs pressed against his legs, steady, eyes calm. Veyril seethed. This will not end here. I will design a test that even you cannot twist with sentiment. Marcus stood, one hand resting on the cub's head. His voice dropped, quiet but firm. Test all you want. Just remember, fear isn't proof, and loyalty isn't weakness. The training hall lights dimmed as the containment field powered down. The cubs padded at Marcus's side, tails wagging, as if they hadn't just unsettled the entire academy. But the whispers followed him out, sharper than before. Some cadets looked at him with new respect, others with deeper fear. And in Instructor Veyril's eyes burned something darker than either: determination. The academy's central courtyard stretched wide under the transparent dome, revealing the silver sweep of a gas giant above. It was usually a place of peace. Cadets lounged, studied, and exchanged culture here. Today, however, conversation stilled as Marcus stepped onto the grass. The cubs bounded ahead, rolling over each other in a playful tumble before trotting back to his side. Their tails wagged freely, tongues lolling, all teeth and innocence. Yet the air was tense. Cadets on benches turned to whisper. A pair of Rixie slithered higher into the branches of a decorative tree, keeping their gelatinous pets away from sight. A brawl warrior leaned on his spear staff, watching with wary respect. "Danger should not be allowed here," someone muttered loudly. "Then leave," Marcus called back without slowing. His voice was calm, not taunting, but it carried across the courtyard. Some cadets flushed, others bristled. A group of Silenians, the instructor's species, exchanged sharp looks. It wasn't long before one of them stepped forward. Zayrik, older by a few years, was a second-year cadet with polished mandibles and a reputation for arrogance. He moved with deliberate grace, antennae twitching like blades. His small companion animal, a harmless nectar feeder, perched on his shoulder. "You parade predators through our halls as if daring us to challenge you," Zayrik said. "Perhaps it is time someone did." Marcus stopped. The cubs pressed close to his legs, sensing the shift in tone. He met Zayrik's unblinking eyes. "I didn't come here to parade anything. They're my companions, just like your fluttering insect. Mine cannot rip out a throat," Zayrik replied coldly. "Yours can." A murmur spread. Cadets leaned forward, waiting. Marcus shrugged. "Capability doesn't equal intent. By that logic, should you be banned because your claws can cut?" The courtyard went still. Even Zayrik hesitated, mandibles flexing. Then his eyes narrowed. "Words are clever, human. But instincts cannot be argued away. Let us see them tested without your constant commands." Before Marcus could reply, Zayrik snapped his fingers. A training drone, hidden in the shadows, whirred to life and darted toward the cubs, projecting hostile screeches. The cubs stiffened. One barked sharply, hackles rising. Gasps echoed around the courtyard. This was the moment Zayrik wanted. The cubs lunging, proving his point. Marcus crouched instantly, his voice cutting through the noise. "Easy. Eyes on me." The larger cub growled, pacing, torn between instinct and training. The drone zipped closer, buzzing at its muzzle. Marcus's hand shot out, gripping the cub's collar gently but firmly. His voice dropped into a low, commanding cadence. "Not the drone. Not today. You're better than that." The cub froze, muscles trembling. Its eyes flicked from Marcus to the machine. Then, with a slow huff, it sat. The second cub mirrored it, ears flattening but tail wagging uncertainly. The drone zipped closer again. Marcus's jaw tightened. The cub lifted one paw and batted it away, claws sheathed. The drone spiraled into the grass, deactivated. Silence. Then a ripple of astonishment swept the courtyard. Even the brawl warrior let out a low grunt of approval. Marcus exhaled slowly, scratching behind the cub's ears. "Good restraint! Proud of you!" Zayrik's mandibles clicked furiously. "You cheat! You interfere with their natural response." Marcus looked up, his expression calm but hard. "That's called training. Discipline. If you think restraint is cheating, you've never had to live beside real danger. Whispers erupted again. Some cadets nodded, impressed. Others still looked unconvinced. Zedek took a step forward, eyes burning. One day, human, your predators will slip. And when they do, I will be there to watch you fall. Marcus stood, the cubs flanking him like shadows. His voice was quiet, almost conversational, but it carried like a blade. Maybe. But if they slip, they'll slip for me. Never for you. That's the difference you don't understand. Zedek froze, antennae twitching. For once, he had no reply. That evening, Marcus sat alone in his dormitory, the cubs curled at his feet. The soft hum of the academy systems filled the silence. He stroked their fur absently, his mind replaying the courtyard confrontation. It was happening faster than he'd expected. The line between fascination and fear was deepening. Some cadets had approached him afterward, asking questions, even daring to pet the cubs. Others had pulled away entirely, whispering louder, their distrust feeding Veyril's narrative. A soft chime at the door broke his thoughts. The panel slid open to reveal the Brawl Warrior, a towering figure with slate-colored skin and tusks. His harmless marsh beast clung to his shoulder like moss. "You fight well with words," the Brawl said in his gravelly voice. "Better than most with spawns." Marcus arched a brow. That's an odd compliment from a warrior. The Brawl's tusks shifted in what might have been a smile. "Respect where it's due. Your beasts obey, even when taunted. That shows strength." "Not strength," Marcus corrected. He scratched the nearest cub's head, earning a lazy tail wag. "Trust. They don't follow because they fear me. They follow because they believe me." The Brawl studied him a long moment, then nodded. "Perhaps humans are not what I expected." When he left, Marcus leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The cubs shifted against his legs, warm and steady. But the words echoed. "Not what I expected." That was the heart of it. Humanity wasn't what this academy expected. And Veyril wouldn't stop until he proved otherwise. 2 days later, Marcus's prediction came true. Training schedules were updated. Cadet Hale, combat simulation trial, mandatory, bring companion animals. The message was signed by Veyril. Marcus read it twice, then glanced at the cubs. They tilted their heads in unison, as if sensing the storm ahead. He exhaled, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "Guess they're done with subtlety." The cubs thumped their tails. The Academy's grand training arena hadn't been this crowded in years. Rows of cadets filled the observation tiers, their pets tucked nervously in containment fields. The air thrummed with anticipation, fear, curiosity, and a hunger for spectacle. At the center, the arena floor stretched wide, lined with hollow projectors and hazard emitters. This was where combat drills usually unfolded. Today, however, the screens blazed with one phrase: Trial of Harmlessness, Cadet Marcus Hale. Marcus stood alone on the polished floor, the two cubs pressed against his legs. They weren't tense, they were alert, as if sensing the challenge, but waiting for his lead. Across the field, Instructor Veyril rose from a dais, antennae arched like spears. His voice, amplified, cut through the murmurs. "Cadets of the Academy," he began, "we gather to settle a matter of danger cloaked in defiance. One among you has brought predators into our midst. Predators with fangs, with claws, with hunger. Today, we determine whether they are as harmless as claimed, or whether humanity's arrogance has endangered us all." A ripple of noise surged. Some cadets hissed approval, others muttered uneasily. Veyril gestured sharply. "The rules are simple. The cubs will face a sequence of simulations without direct command from their handler. Their reactions will reveal their true nature." Marcus lifted his chin. "And if they succeed?" Veyril's mandibles clicked. "Then you walk free. But if they fail, you and humanity's place here will face the consequences. The threat hung in the air like a blade. Marcus crouched, looking the cubs in the eye. Remember, eyes on me. Whatever happens, trust me. The cubs wagged their tails, tongues lolling, as though none of this was dire at all. The first simulation began with a hum. Panels shifted, projecting the image of prey animals darting across the arena. Squay.
Axe rustles, the flutter of wings, all designed to trigger the hunt. The cubs stiffened, ears swiveling. A dozen holographic creatures scattered across their path. Gasps echoed as one cub sprang forward, then stopped dead at Marcus's sharp whistle. It turned, golden eyes locked on him, ignoring the holograms. The second cub sat immediately, as if deciding to mimic its sibling's choice. The simulation blinked out. A wave of disbelief rippled through the cadets. Trained response, Marcus said evenly, projecting his voice upward. Not instinct, that's the difference. Veyril's antennae twitched violently. Next trial! The floor rumbled. Panels split open, releasing 3 drones shaped like armored beasts. These were no prey. They snarled with synthesized growls, advancing in a threatening semicircle. The cubs barked sharply, hackles rising. The crowd tensed, expecting blood. Marcus didn't whistle this time. He folded his arms and waited. The cubs growled low, but instead of lunging, they positioned themselves in front of Marcus, forming a shield. Their posture was defensive, muscles tight, eyes fixed, tails low. One drone lunged, claws flashing. The larger cub snapped its teeth, not in a wild strike, but in a warning bite that missed by inches. The drone recalibrated, retreating. The cadets erupted in noise. "They protected him!" someone shouted. Marcus stepped forward, resting a hand on each cub's neck. Predators fight for survival, but loyalty makes them guardians. That's why they're here. Even some of the skeptics fell silent, watching the cubs with new eyes. Veyril's mandibles clattered in fury. Enough! Final trial! The arena darkened. A new simulation rose around them, towering flames, shattering debris, and the roar of collapsing structures. It was chaos made manifest, designed to induce panic in any living thing. From the shadows, holographic creatures emerged. Not prey, not drones, but humanoid shapes screaming in fear. Some staggered toward Marcos, others fled across the field. The cubs froze, overwhelmed. Their eyes darted from fire to figures, bodies tense. One whimpered softly. Veyril's voice rang out, cold and triumphant. Without commands, their instincts means will consume them. Marcus's pulse hammered. He couldn't order them directly, not with the Academy watching for proof of dependence. Instead, he dropped to one knee, lowering himself to their level. His voice was steady, quiet, cutting through the simulation's roar. Breathe, just like training. Focus on me, not the noise. The cubs trembled, torn between fear and trust. The smaller pressed its muzzle into Marcus's chest, whining. The larger circled once, then settled at his side, gaze fixed on him instead of the chaos. The holographic flames raged higher. One screaming figure stumbled close, falling at Marcus's feet. The cubs tensed, then both lay down, chests heaving, choosing stillness over violence. The arena went utterly silent. Then the simulation blinked out. Marcus rose slowly, placing a hand on each cub. His voice carried in the stunned quiet. You wanted instinct. You got choice. That's what makes them different. That's what makes us different. For a long, heavy moment, no one moved. Then, from the observation tiers, the Brawl warrior stood and struck the floor with his spear staff. Once, twice, an echoing salute. A few cadets followed, hesitant at first, then louder, until the arena pulsed with the sound. Not all joined. Some remained rigid, fear etched into their faces. But respect had been planted, undeniable. Veyril's antennae curled tightly against his head. His voice, when it came, was bitter. You may have convinced some human, but predators remain predators. This academy will not forget that. Marcus met his gaze calmly. Good. Then remember this too. Predators are why humanity survived long enough to stand here. The cubs pressed close, tails wagging, not understanding the politics, only the bond. The trial was over. But the war of perception had just begun. The auditorium's lights flickered, a storm of sparks crawling across the ceiling as the containment alarms howled. Rows of alien students scrambled for the exits, chittering and flaring their feathers, but the doors slammed shut with a metallic clang. Security lockdown initiated, a mechanical voice announced, cold and merciless. Professor Vedic spun toward the command console. His frills pulsed a sickly violet. This is impossible! The system never locks without council authorization! Mira already knew what had happened. She knelt by her cubs, sliding a palm over their spines. They growled low, golden eyes tracking shadows moving in the rafters. It's not impossible, she said evenly. It's sabotage. Someone wanted a show. And a show they got. The Sabrix warhound dropped from the ventilation shaft like a thunderbolt. It was 3 times the size of her cubs, plated in bone armor and breathing steam. A predator weaponized for sieges. Its roar rattled the walls. The alien students screamed. The cubs didn't. They simply padded forward, shoulder to shoulder, tiny bodies radiating confidence beside Mira. "Miss Kalen, get back!" shouted Cadet Ree, eyes wide. "That thing will gut you!" Mira didn't move. She kept her gaze steady, calm, measured. Every muscle in her cubs mirrored her. "No sudden panic," she whispered. "That's what it feeds on." The warhound lunged. Her cubs struck as one, a blur of claws, teeth, and fluid precision. The first slammed into its throat, the second into its haunch, the third onto its back, ripping into the gaps of its bone plating. The warhound bellowed, thrashing, slamming into consoles and shattering glass. Gasps rippled through the class. They weren't watching pets. They weren't even watching animals. They were watching soldiers, trained by instinct and sharpened by human patience. Beiric's voice cracked as he scrambled backward. "This is madness! Those things are killers! Exactly why the law forbids. Wrong!" Mira's voice cut like a blade. She never raised it, but the silence it carved was undeniable. The law forbids mindless threats. My cubs aren't mindless. They're bonded, loyal, smarter than you'll ever give them credit for. The warhound tried one last desperate surge, snapping its jaws toward Mira. One cub leapt, straight into its mouth. Gasps broke out again, but in the blink of an eye, the cub drove its claws upward through the roof of the beast's skull. The warhound collapsed, twitching, then stilled. The cub climbed out of the corpse, drenched in blood, tail swishing proudly as it trotted back to Mira. She didn't flinch. She just wiped the blood from its face with her sleeve and scratched behind its ear. "Good work," she whispered. The silence was suffocating. Cadet Ree spoke first, voice hushed. "They saved us." Mira finally turned to the room, her eyes locking on Veyrix. "You demanded harmless pets because you were afraid of the galaxy's teeth. You wanted soft companions to stroke, not partners who'd bleed for you. But humans don't raise pets. We raise family, and family protects." One of the cubs padded forward and dropped a fragment of the warhound's bone armor at Veyrix's feet. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. Veyric staggered back. His authority had evaporated, crumbling like ash. "The council will hear of this," he rasped. "They will," Mira said simply. "And when they do, they'll realize the truth. Earth didn't break your law. We rewrote it." The alien students began to murmur. Not in fear, but in awe. Mira's cubs sat around her in a protective circle, calm as if nothing had happened, tails brushing the floor. The contrast was undeniable. Apex predators? Yes, but controlled, bonded, purposeful. Mira raised her chin. "Humans never bring anything harmless. That was your first mistake in underestimating us." She placed a hand on the head of the blood-stained cub.
But we also never bring anything that isn't worth trusting with our lives. The doors hissed open at last. Security forces swarmed in, weapons raised, only to freeze at the sight of the slain warhound. Their eyes went not to the corpse, but to the girl and her cubs, standing unbroken. No one moved against her. The cubs had proven more than teeth. They'd proven humanity itself. And so, it was written into the records of the Interstellar Academy, the day the Harmless pet trial was overturned. The day a human girl and 3 apex predator cubs taught the galaxy that danger, when bound with loyalty, was not something to fear, but something to follow. End of story. Subscribe to the Void Narratives for more HFY. Endo. Rentan ko na dia fu este. Si, pinche style este mante.